we are on the site of the castle.
And it was the first time the Beatles had really stopped being semi-professional almost.
Look at that.
Absolutely fascinating.
That's what you do. You buy these clothes that cost money and make a difference in it. But we never do that.
Never complains, gets up, gets on with a smile on his face.
We just want you to sit in your chair and go hip hip hooray for the Western press and the Western narrative. He dared you take the same old every single day without this. If you haven't seen it before, please watch the first series, the first 2 episodes, the second series. Stallone.
Hello there, good citizens of the Republic of Liverpool. Yes, top of the league, top of the Champions League, top of everything. Best city in the world. Best guests I've got in the world. Best chats I've got in the world. Best of everything. Best of everything. And that comes from me. Me and millions of others. Millions of us. And unfortunately, Anthony's not coming on tonight. Well, don't say anything, you know. I'm not putting him on. You know what I mean? I'm going to let him sit there and in pain and watch us, you know, get on with the show, whatever it is. So, you know, don't tell him that I've said that, by the way. Please, don't tell him. But anyway, he just laughs at me, you know. It never takes anything serious. Never takes anything. I'll have him on in a moment. I'll just say hello to these lovely people. Edward, hello. Hello, Edward. Gary Rigby with me, my family name. Evening, Francis. Evening, Gary. Nice to see you. And the vlogs. Hello, Frank. How's you? Not too bad, thank you, vlogs. Love that Liverpool photo in the background. It says it's great, isn't it? I know what you mean. I do know what photograph you mean. And Gary, Lucky 74 starring Paul Barber is on YouTube. Highly recommended. Loads of shots of Liverpool, Scotty Road, Wavertree Road, Lodge Lane. Paul Barber is a lovely fella, by the way. He's one lovely man, and he loves our city. And I said to her, it was one New Year's Eve, anyway. And I said to her, I said, you live in London, don't you? He said, yeah. He said, I have to for my work. He said, I have to for my work. He said, but I love it here. He comes up as much, well, that's what he said to me then, going back a few years. He said, I just come up as much as I can. As much as I can. And the vlog says, what's that smaller building just behind it? It's the poshest toilet in the world, that. Vlogs. Poshest toilet. Yes. No, it's what you call an anti-church. Because here, I always get my coordination terrible. Terrible. Hang on, where am I? God blimey. Right there. Right there. That was the entrance for the, everything. That was the church. That was the chapel. That was St. Mary Del Keys. Right? And here, that was the anti-church. That was for the riffraff, for the likes of you vlogs. You couldn't go into the St. Mary del Key as well in the castle. You couldn't do that. I couldn't even do that. The only person who could do that is Anthony Brown. Oh, they would have laws at him, because they would have had all those patents hanging up and everything else. Yeah, Anthony, there's your pew here, right here. Oh, that church there. Right there, the big one. But anyway, it's a great castle built in approximately 1235. Why am I doing that? 1235. It was demolished in 1724, 1723, 1724. Preservationists were saying, listen, please keep it. It's the first building in Liverpool. What are you doing? What are you doing? And they knocked it down. I'm talking about Cromwell in the second half tonight as well, besides some pictures I'll be putting up. But I have to talk about him, that man, Cromwell. There's Myra Page. Oh, my lovely Myra. Hi, Frank, and everyone. I am Myra. Hope you're well, sweetheart. I really do hope you're well. So, and the vlog says, interesting that. Thanks, Frank. I wonder where that anti-church would be in today's location. I'll tell you where it'll be. Exactly. Right? It'll be right behind the law courts, and it'll be on Shavas Park. That's where it'll be. Right there. That's where it'll be. And the lovely Myra. Amazed up that you joined us, Myra. You might like this, Myra. I know I've got a wonderful guest on, besides the international artist, dude. My good chum. That's Anthony Brown and Gerard Gilligan. He's an astronomer. Wow, astronomer. And what astronomers do is observe the stars, things, and different galaxies and whatever. And he tells us all about it, you see. Because there's lots of questions. We haven't a clue, We know about the Hubble. And there's another one out there now, I forget the name of it. Another telescope. And it's looking deeper into space. I always thought that the Hubble was unbelievable looking at it. I was going, wow, look at this. You see like a cloud, and it looked like a horse's head. It reminded me of a horse's head. Oh, wow, look at that. And that was just the Hubble telescope. But now we've got a different one. And it's looking far out into it. And the Voyager, which went up in 74, I think, and it's gone out. It's gone. It's gone out of whatever it is that we call it. It's absolutely amazing. Amazing. It really is. And also, and I said to when I first met, when he first came on, Gerard, I said to him, this is the naivety of us, because we're not astronomers. And I said we sent a probe out years ago, and it landed on a comet. And I said, God, look at that. I said, I think it took 11 years or something like that. And I said to Gerard, Gerard, that just imagine with today's technology what we could do. He said, no, and he went back to then when it went up. He said, that's today's technology as well. If you know what I mean. So he put me in perspective. Everything, and this is Gerard Gilligan for you. Absolutely brilliant. I'll just go through these. And Tony LFC, a couple of pints for me. Me an alcoholic. Evening, Frankie, says Tony. Evening, Tony, you're a good man, love you. And they led on to each other. Myra to him back to Myra. James Webb. James Webb, they are, look, Benny, 65. He's telling me, Benny, James Webb telescope. Unless it's James Webb, he lives next door to him with his little telescope. I always remember my ex-wife. I hope she's not looking there. It's true, this. I bought a pair of binoculars, and I was going to bring them on holiday. I always go to Italy. And anyway, you know, that's by the by. And I was bringing a pair of binoculars because the sights there, you know, you just put look over. Great. You know, when you're out and about. Not out and about, I mean, like, I always go on coach trips, you know, to different parts. Explore them, like, get the binoculars out, you know, because I said I'd love a pair of binoculars. Anyway, so I brought these, I went out and it was a moonlit night, beautiful moon, full moon. So anyway, I brought them out and I was looking up and I'm looking at the moon and I go, wow, first time I'd ever seen the moon through a pair of binoculars and you could see everything, you know, the craters and it was made up. I was going, wow. Gerard Gilligan would have been made up if he would have been with me. Anyway, so I said to her, I said, have a look at that. It's true, this. Honestly, it's true. She picked it up and she was like that, looking up. And I'm just standing there and she's standing there, you know, look. And she went, why is it orange? I went, well, why is what orange? She said, the moon. She's looking through like this. She was looking at the street lamp. Looking at the street lamp. Oh, she's not looking in at me. But anyway, that's it. That's it, you know. I'll just say hello and the red bird. Hi, Frankie boy. Hi, yeah. And the vlogs, I had made up you back to your name. I really am made up, and I'm made up for you. Believe that. Please believe it. And the vlog says, see your subscribers have shot up a big chunk, Frank. Maybe about 100 or so since I was last on last week. Much deserved, bringing the best stories about our great city. And I'll be talking about Cromwell, by the way. Listen to what I've got to say about it. And Redbird, bless up Myra. And Myra's back to hi, Redbird. She knows about Redbird and what has happened to him. One of the lovely person. Right, so, and he laughs when I said about the orange glow. And I said to her, you're looking at the lamp? She told me to. You can imagine what she said to me. Anyway, I'm going to bring in my lovely mate, Anthony, and then Gerard. Are you Anthony?
Hiya, Frank. Good evening, all. That's a hell of an introduction. I'll have to get something off. Street lamps.
That was mad, that. Tell you what, Anthony, your background looks great, by the way. Laney's been, doing away with the Christmas decorations and the glowing fire as well.
That's Laney and the kids. With the kids having the birthdays so close to Christmas, we kind of start putting stuff up around then. No trees and stuff up yet. There's no snowmen out and about other than one tiny one sitting with me. Do
you know what? Hello, Anthony. Scotches for you.
Hey, Tony. Thanks, mate. Thank you.
And the Redbirds. Hi, Anthony.
Oh, hi, Redbird. Good evening.
And do you know what? The red bear goes like, totally believe you, Frank, about that must be about the, the binoculars. I'm going to bring in this wonderful, wonderful man, Gerard Gilligan. And there he is. Hey, Gerard.
Hi, Frank. Hi, Tony.
Good evening, Gerard.
All right.
Nice
Yeah,
you.
good. Yeah, really good, Gerard. So how's things? Listen, was
long time no see.
Yeah, and we were having you on, weren't we? And something happens about, you couldn't come on for the last 3 times, unfortunately, and we all missed you. And so anyway, is there anything new that's happening in, up there in wonderful space?
Well, as we've had lots happening since we last spoke. We had 3 that was seen in the evening sky. That was it had a very long tail, and it won't come back within the vicinity of Earth for I think about 80,000 years. Whether I'll be here or not, I don't know. To answer your question about anything new, well, the planet Jupiter comes to what we call opposition on the 7th of December. That means it's opposite the sun to us in the solar system, and it looks very, very bright. If you've got a fairly good telescope with a mirror of, say, 6 inches or a bit of magnification, you can actually see its cloud belts. And if you can observe for 10 hours, if the weather permits, you can actually see one rotation of the planet. You can see the cloud belts change. And of course, you can also see the 4 bright Galilean moons discovered by Galileo, the astronomer in Italy.
Is that just,
and I think you'll be able to, sorry, Frank.
No, I was just going to say Galileo Galilei. I love that man, by the way, for what he did, to be honest. But what I was going to say,
right?
Have you never, before you carry on, but you can tell me later. Have you ever heard of Jeremiah Horrocks?
Yes.
Okay,
yes, he's close to my heart, Frank.
Oh, go away. I'm made up with that. Absolutely delighted with that. I want you to talk about, if you don't mind, why he's closer to your heart, because I think, and I'm unbelievable, well, he was, But can you talk about what you were just talking about then, just before I interjected? I'm sorry about that. And then talk about Horrocks.
Well, Jeremiah Horrocks, he is a Liverpudlian. He was born in Liverpool in, I think, 1613. He was a very self-educated young man. He became what they call a curate, and he worked in one of his first jobs as a curate was working for the Stones family, who lived in the village of Muchhule, which is just outside Preston. He's associated with the ancient chapel at Toxteth. As you probably know, that's where his family came from, Toxteth. It was obviously a small village hamlet in them days. But Jeremiah Horrocks is famous for predicting and observing the tris in 1639, November, December 1639. And he predicted it. And the story is that working for the Stones family, he was in the local church, St. Michael's, and was called away as he was about to observe the transit that he'd been waiting for about, they're only every 18 years, they're in pairs, these transits. So he was called away. And then when he was free, he ran back to where he had set up his telescope, which in them days they were very, very long, with a very long focal length. And there, to his astonishment, was the black disk of the planet Venus moving across the disk of the sun, a transit as it's called. If Horrocks had lived longer than, I think sadly he died when he was only 24, if he'd lived longer, I think most science historians think he would have been more famous than Isaac Newton and Edmund Halley. He's very important as regards scientific history, and he's well known within the astronomy circles. But I think, in your interest, Frank, I don't think many people in Liverpool know about him, but he is one of our heroes. And
He is one of
I think there is a street or road, and he's got a street or road named after him. So yeah.
Do you know what? Do you know how I got to know about him? And I'll tell you this. There was a lad. We were little infants. Little juniors, you know, just about to go into the juniors in my school. Do you know, I've got a photographic memory. I haven't got it now, like, but it's it. I keep forgetting things. Anyway, Gerard. This poor lad, he was my little playmate, you know, with a couple of other little kids in the schoolyard, you know, and he didn't live far from me, but he lived across the main road. We didn't, you know, we just walked home. Anyway, his name was John Horrocks. John Horrocks. Never forget his name, this little boy. And our teacher at the time, now this is a teacher, and he said to John, he said, "You've got a very famous name." He said, "You know that?" And he went, "Have I?" And he said, "Yes, a very famous name." And he mentioned Jeremiah Horrocks. He said, "Your name is like Jeremiah, you know, John today, Horrocks." He said, and do you know what he called him? A stargazer. And that resonated with me for years until I you know, when I started uni and things like that, and I got hold of this Jeremiah Horrocks, see what he was all about. And yes, and you know, Manchester. Now, there are two things about Manchester. It came up on somewhere, it was on YouTube or something like that. I forget what it was. And it said that he came from Manchester. And I was fuming over that. It's just like our steam train called the Lion, which is the oldest steam engine in the world today, Gerard. The oldest one left. The rocket's there no longer, but this is the oldest one. And he said that it was theirs until we got it back. I said, "It's not yours." And we got it back nevertheless. But why do people... No, I won't... yeah, you've got nothing to do with that. But, you know, I think it's a lot of jealousy going on about Jeremiah Horrocks, where he actually came from. And what you said just outside Preston, he was over there. And they claimed it. Oh, no, he wasn't from Liverpool. And I said, "Well, get down to the Ancient Chapel of Toxteth." I said, "That's where you'll see his family, you know, graves." But he was 24 when he died, wasn't he? Do you think he would have had a lot more to give, Gerard? I think Gerard's frozen. Gerard is frozen, unfortunately.
Yeah, Gerard did say before that people felt that his worth hadn't really been established, and he would have had a lot more to do and to say and to record. You know, I only heard of him through you, Frank. excuse my ignorance, but it was never mentioned in school. Like many of our local heroes were never mentioned. Well,
It just shows you, though, doesn't it? Do you know what it's like? I'll tell you what it's like, Anthony. I'm not being funny. If someone said to me, or it came out, the great artist of 100 Z's thinking of Liverpool comes from Preston, or comes from Blackpool, or comes from wherever, I'd go mad. And it's just like me with Jeremiah Horrocks. I think it's wrong for anyone to say that they come from their place when they don't. And he's a Liverpool lad, like Gerard said. Oh, there's Gerard back.
Yeah.
You're
back with us, Gerard? Yeah, oh, great.
Sorry about that, Frank.
No.
Can I just add to your discussion that I think the people who tried to indicate that Jeremiah was from Manchester may be getting confused with an observer he actually exchanged letters with at the time of the transit, and that was a gentleman called William Crabtree, who was based in what was then Salford. So you could say the Greater Manchester area. So they've got their own Jeremiah Horrocks. So, and he observed the transit at the same time.
I think that sums everything up for me now. And I made up that you said that. Okay. Absolutely delighted, because I think that does put things in perspective. Thank you. You're great. So listen, Gerard.
Yes.
Right, I've got to ask you this question. It's not my question. Myra says, are there life out there in space? That's what she's saying.
Well, Myra, at the moment, we've got no cast iron evidence at the moment to suggest there is life out there. I think I've said to Frank and to Tony in the past that the universe is so big, there must be the possibility of some kind of life out there, but we haven't encountered them.
It's the likes of bacteria or something like that. I think that's in our
That's right, yes. In connection with this, NASA recently launched a spacecraft called the Europa Clipper, it was called, and it's on its way to Jupiter's moon Europa, which is covered in very thick ice. But they think there might be an ocean under that ice, which may have or support some kind of life. Now, I'm saying that because in the Antarctic and the cold regions of the Earth, you can have primitive life as well as fairly sophisticated life, like fish, perhaps some kind of Cretaceous beings. So there's a possibility of that on Europa. So to answer Maya's question, there's indications that there could be the environment for life on Jupiter's moon Europa.
Wow. What would that, in terms of science and astronomy and everything else about mankind, how big would that be if they did go in, with a tube or something and pull out a piece of ice, and all of a sudden they found this, whatever it is inside that ice, which is life, if you know what I mean, but
if you think about it, it would be some kind of life form, either plant or animal, that would be outside the Earth. It wouldn't be a part of the Earth. It would be on another solar system body, which is, they've always thought that there's a possibility of Mars having some kind of either record or maybe evidence of bacteria in its soil, because it once was covered in water, but that water's gone away now. But Europa has all the conditions.
what do you think caused that? Because that fascinates me about Mars. Because there were oceans there, there were straight big rivers and everything else.
Yeah.
That has been proven. Ice as well. The caps.
Yes.
What made it disappear?
Well,
Have you any idea?
It was just the conditions. It literally, the atmosphere got very thin and the water boiled away. It became, but Mars is the red color because it some of the material that was left behind, iron. So you could say that Mars is rusted. It's iron and water combined to. I think it's iron
is that why
oxide.
it's red?
So
is that what you're saying? Is that why it's red? Because of that?
Basically, yes. It's got lots of different other materials there as well, and there's some minerals that can only be formed when it's in contact with water, but the minerals remained, but the water has gone away. And of course, as you know, and we've discussed this before, there's evidence of riverbeds, gullies, and where cliffs have collapsed simply because of water. And as you said just then, the north and south poles of Mars exhibit solar ice caps because it gets so cold there.
Yeah. It's always fascinated me, different planets, where we are, and I always remember you telling me, and it's about Pluto. Is it Pluto that became a dwarf planet, not a planet, but a dwarf? Is it Pluto?
Yeah, it was the. I remember the organization that allows that they are the people who allow solar system and things to be named like comets. It's the International Astronomical Union, and I think in a meeting in 2014 they decided that Pluto was not big enough to be a planet, so they clumped everything its size into what they classed as a dwarf planet. So Pluto was.
Astronomers use that terminology, clumped everything together.
Well, this is the because there's other objects out really far out into the solar system that are either small or even about the same size as Pluto, but they're classed now as dwarf planets. But it caused a lot of arguments, and there was a lot of textbooks up till that time that indicated that the solar system had 9 planets and not 8. But now Pluto's been sort of relegated, if you could say, to being a dwarf planet.
Wow. Well, I was just going to ask you, because I think it was fascinating what you were telling me the last time. It's only for these good people out here it's the first time I think that, they've seen Gerard Gilligan, the astronomer. I mentioned at the beginning of that particular probe that went out and landed on a comet. Now, I forget, as I said, I used to have a photographic memory, but I forget how long it took when it was made to get onto that particular comet. Can you give some details of when, they made it and when it was launched and how long it would have taken for this comet to come into the view of this probe? Can you give us an overview of it, please?
Well, I think you more or less were correct by saying it took about 10 to 15 years to get to the comet, but the complication was with the mission, which was extraordinary in itself, was that it had to go in orbit around the comet, which was the comet itself was traveling through space. So it was a very precise mission, which they had to get right, of course. And the comet was many millions of miles away from the Earth. And they wanted to land a little probe on it. I think it was called Pili, the probe. But they did get some really astonishing close-up images of the comet, looking like it looked like the Alps, but covered in dust and rocks and stuff, of course. But to put the probe into orbit round a comet was it needed a lot of sophistication, and it took a long time to get there. And it was the European Space Agency that did it with the help of NASA. It wasn't a NASA-led mission. So, it was regarded as a great success, even though the small lander, unfortunately, basically bounced. It bounced, but the comet's surface is very small, that it doesn't have much gravity to hold onto the little probe. So it did bounce up and down and landed awkwardly. But still, for what they achieved, it was a great success. Yes, I think it was way back in 2014-16. It was a fair number of years ago now.
Yeah, well, the thing is, that's why I said to you when you were on the last time, but just the achievements of mankind in space exploration. I know that the Voyager has gone right out and whatever, but for that, to land between 11 and 15 years, a thing millions of miles away, and to get its orbit and to go around the thing itself. Am I right by saying the as it was going in, where they seen it, if you know what I mean, and they took a picture of it. I think I'm right. I'm not quite so sure. I want you to clarify. Did it show the tail of this particular comet before?
Well, it was actually too close. It was concentrating on what they call the cometary nucleus, the head of the comet. But what it showed was as the comet came close to the sun, it heats up. So dust and ice combine, and you get both an ice, a plasma tail, and another type of tail, and they can, as it gets closer and moves away from the sun, they can be very dense and clear in if you view them from the night sky, depending on how close they are to the Earth. But the probe was too close to the comet to see any kind of detail. However, what it did see is that as the surface got hotter, it blasts out dust and ice from the surface, and that's what it photographed, the probe that was in orbit.
Right, okay.
And those blasts of material out form the tail. So if you think of the way a ship moves through water, it leaves a wake behind it. Well, that's what a comet tail is.
Wow. Do you know what? Here's another question for you. Right, if you don't mind answering.
Yeah, sure.
I think you're the only person who can, because we don't give answers and whatever, and like I think so and whatever. Right. So this is the question. There's lots of people I watch a lot of science fiction films. I'm being honest because, for what I do and for what's going on in the world today, I just want to escape reality. So I watch a lot of science fiction. I really do. Now then, there's one particular science fiction film, and it's with Sean Connery and great actor, and Natalie Wood, and it's called Meteor. Now, I'm not talking about that film. Here's what I want you to answer. Could there be, in the future, or whatever, a meteor that comes from deep space, or whatever you call it, outer space, or heading towards the Earth? Could that ever happen? A meteor going off orbit?
I'm sure that there's lots of objects out there, and particularly if they come from where the sun is, we don't detect them until it's very late. Now they can be the size of a house. They can be the size of your shoe. They can vary in size quite a bit, and sometimes they do find these things heading towards the Earth, and sometimes they come within the orbit, between the space between the orbits of the Earth and the Moon. So that's, in astronomical terms, that's very, very close indeed. That's a hair's breadth in astronomical terms. But there's quite a number of objects that they think will come fairly close to the Earth, and there may be objects that have been caught in Earth's gravitational pull, and they're also in the Earth's orbit, following the Earth or even in front of it. That's another possibility as well. And they'll slow down and eventually may collide with the Earth. But that's I think, for the distant future. But to answer your question, yes, it's a possibility.
Wow. Well, do you know, you mentioned, the sun the size of a house. This is being hypothetical now. Suppose one, just for example, say one hit the size of a house right through and hit the centre of Europe. And I'm talking about, say, the likes of Western Europe. I'm talking about Spain, Portugal, including us, Italy, Germany, Austria, and, all these places. What would be the impact of something like that hit right in the middle of Europe?
Well, let's make sure it's a hypothetical question, of course.
Yeah.
But it would cause a lot of damage, I think. But the other thing to consider is that the dust and plume that the collision would cause would go into the atmosphere, and it would go around like what happens with volcanic eruptions. The dust is pushed right up into the atmosphere very high and goes round the Earth with the weather currents and things. So it may well black out the Earth if there's a considerable amount of dust. So it wouldn't just affect Europe, it might affect the entire Earth as well by reducing the sunlight getting down onto the land surface, and may cause problems with plant life and things like that. So to answer your question, Frank, and the hypothetical answer would be, it would probably cause a lot of damage.
More damage than what we can expect. Is that what you're saying?
Yeah, it depends on the size of the object, and it's the way it comes into the atmosphere. And again, I know there's a lot of ifs and buts about this question, but when something comes through the atmosphere, it causes a lot of friction, so it can break up in the atmosphere. But if it's big enough and it could remain a fairly big size, and it hits the Earth, then it could cause a lot of damage.
Wow. Well, do you remember it a few years ago? I'm sorry to interrupt again.
No, it's all right.
Because you're only out for the hour. Don't want to get as many questions. Do you know do you remember a few years ago, and the Icelandic volcano that exploded, and we had this enormous, whatever came out of it, and it blackened the sky or around there, and all flights in Europe was cancelled.
That's right, yes.
So
that's the kind of thing that could happen, even on a small scale. If it made the dust go into the atmosphere, then of course it would cause problems for airlines.
Well, that's what I mean. That's what I mean about compared to the house. I'll have to go back again hypothetically. Compared to the house that's coming through, this meteor thing, coming through and hitting the centre of Europe, would that, in comparison, would that be like a little mushroom, that volcano eruption? Would that be like a mushroom to what a meteor the size of a house would cause?
Yeah, it's a possibility. Again, it just depends on what remains as it comes through the atmosphere. Remember, there was one over Russia not too long ago.
Yeah,
It broke up, and it caused a sound wave that broke windows.
yeah.
There was one over Canada in, I think it was 1972, which was big enough, but it actually bounced up the atmosphere and went back into space. And that may have caused a few problems. And then the most famous one, I think, is Tunguska over Russia, I think in 1903.
Yeah,
And
yeah.
some experts think that was a comet which exploded over the Earth and caused all the trees.
I made up you said that simply because there was no crater. There was just an enormous trees, and they're still down. The trees, they're still flattened.
Yes,
They're still flattened. I've seen recent, footage.
Because it was in a remote area of Russia, people didn't actually get to see it for sure until about 1926. But if you think about it, it happened in a very remote part of the Earth. If the Earth's rotation would have been different, it could have caused a lot of damage to a city, like London or New York or something like that. But that explosion in 1903 caused very bright sunsets and sunrises because of the dust in the atmosphere.
Wow, it's amazing, isn't it? What's out there.
Oh yes.
And then what's traveling around,
right?
And what we're doing. Do you know I mentioned about? I'm sorry about this. I'm sorry about this again. I'll let you carry on.
It's okay.
Right. Do you know that new telescope? Not the Hubble. Because I think the Hubble, what I seen about the Hubble, that amazed me. I was fascinated by it. The pictures that they were sending out, just like the Mars probe now, that's sending still pictures back. Right. And even the Voyager, when it was passing Jupiter and everywhere, it fascinated me. That. Right.
Okay.
This new telescope, can you tell us a little bit more about that? Because it's fascinating what it's bringing back to it, what it's sending back to it.
Well, I think you one of your subscribers, they call it the James Webb Telescope. Well, it's in a special place. It's not in orbit around the Earth. It's actually in orbit around the Sun itself.
Oh.
It needs to be in a place that doesn't get any interference from the Earth or anything. And it doesn't look in the optical part of the spectrum like Hubble. It actually looks in the infrared part of the spectrum. So it's able to penetrate dust layers in objects in the far reaches of not just the solar system, but the universe as well. So it penetrates any dust and is able to record things much further out. So they can actually combine the photographs returned by Hubble and the James Webb Telescope to get an almost three-dimensional view of these objects. And I think it's found a galaxy which is close to 14 billion light years away. So that means the light from the galaxy has taken 14 billion years traveling at the speed of light to get to the Earth. So it's an incredible instrument, and everybody involved in it needs to be congratulated. And its orbit was so precise, they reckon it's going to give them an extra 10 years of observations.
Wow, that's incredible. I've got a question for you. Just before I go on to it, Planet Gerard has been space nabbed.
Okay.
Anyway, there's the question for you, and it's from the Anfield Roar. Question for Gerard: How far along are we as a species to getting closer towards a faster
propulsion?
Propulsion engine to travel faster?
Well, it's the nearest thing to what the Anfield Roar are asking is an ion engine, which is, I think it's being tested and may be tested in space sooner or later. And there's also the ability to use a solar sail, which will actually act as a wind sail on the Earth, but it's solar wind which comes from the sun and will propel the object with a huge big solar sail out into space. There'll be no propulsion as such, but it'll be pushed along, and depending on how big the sail is, it can travel fairly fast. So the technology is there. It just means they're just waiting to be put into space. But they have been testing smaller versions of these on some spacecraft.
Wow. Well, Benny65 says that was who mentioned about the telescope, actually, what it was called. And Benny says Mars' magnetic field faded away, leaving Mars open to solar radiation, sublimating its water to space over time. Apart from the little waterlet that is probably under the surface, frozen. So he must be a little, a little space probe himself, is Benny65, which is great. I'll just see if there's any more questions for you, Gerard. Right, I must say, says the Anfield, I always found, whilst on holiday during my early 20s, probing lots of things myself, but I digress. Such an interesting subject, Gerard.
Thank you very much.
He carries on by saying a little space jokes for Gerard. 1. How do you get a clean outer space? Answer, you take a meteor shower. Right.
I'll have to remember that one.
What do you win in a space talent competition? Answer, a consolation prize.
Yeah.
See, these are our
Very good. Very good.
Brilliant. And I think the interesting thing about the universe is, why is it there? Why are we here? And what is the point? Can you answer that, Gerard?
Why are we here? Well, we're just part of the way the solar system was formed. We all originated from the sun forming water particles on the, perhaps brought by comets, and we're all part of the, we're very lucky where we are in the solar system. This habitable zone. Some scientists called it the Goldilocks zone. It's not too cold, yet it's not too hot, and we're just in the right place. And they found exoplanets out way beyond the solar system that may be in this habitable zone within their own solar systems. So that's probably why we're here.
Wow. It's incredible because, it's infinity, isn't it? Space is infinity. There's no ending to it. You just, I'm going to ask you, so what, do you watch films?
Well, I was going to say to you, Frank, a recent science fiction one I did look at was it came from outer space. The one the spacecraft that landed in the center of Washington.
Yeah.
That's a favorite. That's a favorite of mine. Yeah.
Wow. I've got it there. Honestly, I've got it there. I wish I could show you. I wish I could, not the spacecraft, but
well, that's one of my favorites.
Michael Rennie.
That's right. It was very much part of the the
Cold War early, wasn't it?
Cold War early, 1950s, 60s. It was all to do with that, really.
It's only what you said before, right? It's only what you said before. And I'll leave you with this.
Okay.
Please watch 2 films for me, please. And when you're on the next, will you come on again?
Yeah, certainly. Yeah, no problem at all.
Excellent stuff. Right, and I'll tell you for why, right? I'll tell you for why. I want you to watch 2 films, right? Because, like a final question, I was going to ask you, but you don't have to answer yet.
Okay.
Is about solar flares. Solar flares, right? So watch a film for me. I want you to watch 2, by the way. Watch a film called Knowing. Knowing.
With Nicolas Cage in.
Yes.
Okay.
Yes. And the other one, and you can get this on YouTube, it's a new one. And I found it fascinating. I was watching it and found it fascinating right through. And it's just one number, 65.
Okay.
It's just called 65. And if you watch them for me, I'm not asking for reviews or anything, but I want you to explain something about, not about the film, but yeah, it will be about the film. And, could it be true? I'll put it that way. That's all I'll leave you with. When you come home, Gerard.
Okay, I've made a note of the films, Frank. So I'll.
Thank you.
I've seen Knowing before.
Oh right, okay.
Yeah, about the numbers found in the
the numbers,
the time capsule buried by the school.
Yes.
And it predicts things happening.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
And
especially the solar flare.
Yes. Yeah.
Please watch it. Go on.
That's a possibility in the Knowing.
Right. Okay.
Because that will happen if the sun starts to burn up its energy and expands. Wow. And it'll engulf the planets, I think, as far out as perhaps maybe Uranus and Neptune. Its atmosphere will just get much bigger because stars have a timetable. They run out. They do, depending on which type they are. They run out of their energy, and ours may be sort of halfway through its life, but that expansion I've mentioned may happen. It's got to happen in millions of years' time. It's not going to happen very soon.
Not now. Yeah. Wow. I'm made up here. But will you please watch for the next time 65?
65. Okay.
I just love your interpretation on that because. Okay. It'll be right down it'll be right down your street. So I'm sorry, I've got to go to the break here, Gerard. So I'll see you next time.
It's been great talking to you, Frank, and to see you again, Tony. Thank you both very much indeed.
Everyone's made up. Everyone, look at this, the Anfield Road. Wow, it's incredible. Gerard, thank you for your great explanation.
To listen, Gerard. Yeah.
Isn't it unbelievable?
Fascinating. Absolutely.
And if I don't see us before, have a happy Christmas.
Well, I'd love to see you in if possible, a couple of weeks.
Okay. Well, no problem at all, Frank. I'm always glad and happy to come on. You know that.
Oh, amazing. Okay. Thank you so much, Gerard. And I'll see you in a couple of weeks. Love your explanation about 65. Okay.
Right, it's a date.
Excellent.
Thank you very much. Cheers.
See you later. Going to the break now.
What we're actually looking at is the very first mechanical dock bridge in the entire world, built and designed by Jesse Hartley, the same fella that actually designed the Albert Dock. Well, it's actually built on the Stanley Dock, and the Stanley Dock was known as the pawn shop dock, because when ships came in through the port and they couldn't pay the fees, the mechanical bridge moved, the ships went into the Stanley Dock, the bridge closed, and until they paid their fees, then they were let out. The road is closed now, but thousands and thousands of motorists used it nearly every single day. How many of the motorists knew of its unique history? With the decline of the dock system, the poor bridge fell into disrepair. There is talk about bringing it back to life, this famous bridge. But in my lifetime, I don't know. But let's hope in the near future that it does. Right facing Hartley's Bridge is the very first six-sided clock that was ever built, and there's only another one in existence, and that's in Archangel, Russia. Jesse Hartley designed it, but why was it six-sided? So all around the dock area, people could see the time going to and fro work. Time is important to the dockers, and it was equally important to their bosses. So wherever you were around this area, you could see the time. No excuses. When we mention the radio, we automatically think of Marconi as the inventor. However, it was Sir Oliver Lodge, Professor of Physics at Liverpool University, who actually sent the first ever radio message. From the top of Liverpool's University clock tower, here in Brownlow Well, to the top of Lewis's store in 1897. The message he sent was for his wife. I'm on my way home. I'm on my way home. Lodge agreed to be bought out by Marconi, and it was the latter that is thought to be Mr. Radio, and not Sir Oliver Lodge. But we know different now. Let's take a break for a moment from Liverpool first, and we're here in Sefton Park for one of Liverpool's real gems. This is the amazing farmhouse given as a gift by Henry Yates Thompson and was designed by Scottish architects Moncur and Mackenzie and erected in 1896. But what's so intriguing that it has statues of all the great maritime discoverers surrounding the farmhouse itself. Isn't it hard to believe that this, just a few years ago, was derelict? How could we leave something so beautiful to go to rack and ruin? But with the refurbishment, this is the beauty of it today.
What do you think of that?
From outer space to Peter Pan.
Yeah, it's amazing, you know, the history and everything else.
Yes.
Do you know what I want to talk about? I'll be talking about a few things. I'll be talking about the Albert Dock, and you know, it was the very first of its kind in the world.
Yeah.
And everybody copied it then. Jesse Hartley. So I'll be talking about him in a minute because I've got a map that he actually designed it. And it's very rare, you know, that it's shown his actual plan, his design. So we'll be watching, be putting that up in a moment or two. So
that brings a question to me. Oh, just brings a question to me. We know how great Jesse Hartley is certainly for Liverpool. What was there a big job that he did before starting on Liverpool? Where did he work?
Well, he's a Yorkshireman. He was a Yorkshireman, and he was a harbour master. And when he came here to Liverpool, you know, he became the harbour master. And when he was looking around, he went and he seen all these ships, and he went, you know, something's got to be done, because there was lots of pilfering. There was lots of pilfering because they used to just put their particular goods on, you know, on the wharf there. You know, they just put them on the side, and people, you know, obviously, they were getting robbed. And the next performance was insurances went up, so we came out with the idea of building a dock. And I show these people. I've shown astrophysicists. I've shown Japanese television. I've shown German television from a very different angle that you look at the Albert Dock, and they go, "Wow!"
Yeah.
Even these astrophysicists, they go, "Wow!" You know, when they show them and they explain, if you know what I mean.
Yeah.
So it's wonderful. It's wonderful. It really is, you know, for me to try and explain. It's like even if Frankie and Anthony, couples of these, will you, lads?
Oh, wow. I think we'll be orbiting Jupiter after that.
The Redbird says, love your breaks, Frank. Have you ever thought about being a historian? You'd be great. Thanks a lot, Redbird. Yeah, I think about it now and again. You know. Gary Rigby, have you seen the footage of it? Yes, I have. Yes, I have. I loved Arthur. You've got a great take as well, haven't you, on Arthur Dooley?
Yeah, I loved him for what he was as a sculptor, and that he was fiercely proud of his Liverpool heritage, his Liverpool roots, and working class, which became a dirty word that we couldn't use really. And I got to meet him when, because he opened up a studio. The building is still there. This is on Seal Street. Buildings around it have gone, but the building that Arthur was in is still there. And I think it's used as a bar or something now. All Seal Street is all bars, but it's good that it's still there. And it was a very, very intimidating meeting I had with him, because we were after studio space, and we went to this cafe in this building, and Arthur was in there, not quite holding court, but he was the governor, you know. And we walked up, and Lainey and I, you know, we got to see him, and he stood up. And when he stood up, oh my word, he looked like a giant grizzly bear. And I thought, oh man, we're stuffed. We're not going to get anywhere here. And yeah, we got a room there. Sadly, he wasn't with us very long after that. This was like late 80s, early 90s.
Yeah, he was huge, wasn't he? He's just very tall, 6'4", 5", or something like that.
Yeah.
An Irish guard. He was an Irish guard, actually.
Gentle grizzly bear, totally unique vision with his artwork. Again,
I loved his work. And I went into his studio after he, passed on. And there was still like little bits that he was working on in there, little bits of scrap. And I was going to take something, I was going to take a little piece of scrap to say Arthur Dooley was actually, cut this off, or, was going to work on it, and I never did. And I'm so sorry that I didn't, so sorry. And I could have done, without upsetting anybody, by the way. And they're one of the regrets I have, just taking that little piece of whatever it was, scrap.
You can't regret them. You saw them. You were there.
Yeah.
And you were well aware of what he was all about. And I know his I've never met his son, but I know his son ran that basement for a good few years. And there's all sorts of half casts.
Yeah, that's right.
Boxes and stuff.
And it's so sad, that he did pass on. But anyway, here's what I want to talk about. I really do. And it's this fella. Before I talk about Jesse Hartley, by the way, which is fascinating. Jesse Hartley's fascinating. And it's this fella here. And it's Oliver Cromwell.
Yeah.
Now, you're from an Irish background, aren't you?
Yeah.
There's some Irish in the and I was watching something on the YouTube, and it was this thing, about him, and the propaganda that was spewed out about him was unbelievable. And I mean, propaganda. Now, what wasn't mentioned in this program was what he banned. He banned everything. He banned music. He banned literature. He banned inns, pubs. He banned theatres. He banned everything, including colour. There was only John Milton who, at the time, could write, Paradise Lost, Paradise Regained, that John Milton. And, he was the only one who could write. See, Milton was what you call a Puritan, but with a small c, shall we say. A small c. And he was told to write psalms, Puritan psalms, but he carries on writing, himself during this particular period. And I've always said this. Imagine him being at the time, or Shakespeare, let's say Shakespeare, being at the time of him. You would never have heard anything about Shakespeare or his works. No. That everything revolves, everything that's done in films, on the stage, no matter what, is all about television. Everything is Shakespeare. There's always something about Shakespeare there, little storylines and whatever, right? Yeah. Just imagine that, no Shakespeare, for the world to, love, put it that way, to love. Through this man. And this man, again, they never mentioned that, by the way. They didn't mention. And you also had to pray every day. Every day you had to pray. You know, these Puritans, and I'm talking about Puritans. They went into churches and desecrated all the morals, like he said about idolatry, you know, so getting rid of statues, and you've only got to go to Westminster Abbey, not Westminster Abbey, York Minster, their cathedral, and what you see morals, you know, some morals and paintings and everything, right at the top of the cathedral itself, but below them is, you know, it's plain. It's just nothing there. It's all plain, simply because they went in there and getting rid of everything, but they couldn't reach the top, so they just left it. You see what I mean? This is what he did to every church.
Yeah.
He built abbeys and everything, this fella, along with Henry VIII. You see many abbeys, you know, destroyed. You see one in the Walker Gallery, one of my favourite paintings. You know, this abbey destroyed in the moonlight. It's absolutely fantastic, massive picture. I love it. It's one of my favourite pictures when I go in there. Not only that, it's about people think that, honestly, that it was some of these abbeys were bombed during the war, and it wasn't. They weren't bombed during the war. It was this lot. It was the likes of it. It was the likes of Henry VIII getting rid of the, you know, and his cronies getting rid of all these abbeys. It was an absolute disgrace, you know, what they did. And anyway, you know, about this great fella, and what it didn't say, as they call him, a great fella, he was a tyrant. He was a dictator. He actually said, I want to rule with an iron rod and an iron fist. That's where that saying comes from, and it comes from him. Right? I want to rule with an iron fist and an iron rod. And he hired, which never came out either. Should have seen the comments I made about this particular program. And he never came out about the banning and everything else of, you know, what I've just mentioned, even colour. You only had to wear two colours. Those two colours were black and white. And if anyone had died and you were in mourning, a little piece like that across wherever it was, you say here, you know, across your tunic, was like scarlet, you know, purple, not scarlet, purple, for mourning. They were the only colours that you could ever wear. It was shocking what he did, this fella. It was absolutely ludicrous. Anyway, so he bans everything, and he put people to war. Civil war. You know, and then when he finally died, his son Richard, you know, they had enough. They had enough of him. But all religions had enough of Cromwell. It was shocking because he was ruling, as I said, with the iron rod and the iron fist. And he also hired, which never came about either, he hired Matthew Hopkins, you know, the Witchfinder General.
Yes.
And the Witchfinder General, as you know, went into hamlets first. It's like the Romans, going back to the Romans, when they sent in the auxiliaries to see what the enemy was like. The auxiliaries first, then the legions went in. Right, so that's what this fella did, Matthew Hopkins. Went into small hamlet to see what he could get away with. Right, it's just like Custer. Custer was the same, General Custer in America. You know, he never fought or big major battles with the indigenous Indian. He went into these little, like, teepees, you know, the little campsites, because the Indians were always on the move. They were getting chased off the land. So we used to go in when the braves were out, you know, whatever they were doing, you know, they could have been in battle with other cavalry, and he used to go in with his troops and slaughter them, slaughter the indigenous people, you know. So he wasn't this big brave fella as people think he was. In my opinion, he was a coward, and that's why he was heavily defeated at the Battle of Little Bighorn. And, you know, they said, leave him till the last. And he was the last man standing. Custer, he was the last man standing, if you know what I mean. Obviously, they killed him. Right, so, and this is what this Matthew Hopkins was like. He went into small hamlets to see how the land lay. Yeah. And then, you know, then he went into villages. Then he went into small towns, putting the fear of God. That's another saying that came out from that time, putting the fear of God into them, you know, to ordinary people. Because as the Civil War was going on, as that was going on, the likes of you know, the women, they're losing their husbands. And there was lots of vermin at the time, you know, these rats and everything else. So they got cats. And one of the ideas was, if anyone's got a cat, people say about black cats, no, any cat, any coloured cat. If anyone has a cat, they were deemed a witch, because they said the cat was the devil's incarnation or whatever it was they were saying about it. So they were putting people to death. And if the elder of that village or that town said, hang on a minute, what are you doing? He was put to death as well. And they had terrible deaths. They were burnt alive. They were hanged. They were put to the sword. Everything was going on. So the fear of God was into them, because this Matthew Hopkins went with the Bible. You know, said, it's the witches here. No, you're a witch. You've got a cat, haven't you? Come on, you. And, you know, it was shocking. And grabbing anyone, especially women or young girls, they were always young girls, to be honest, grabbing them and putting them on the ducking stool. And the ducking stool tipped in the water. You were tied to it. You couldn't move. And you'd went under the water, kept you there for a few minutes, and then brought you back up. You were dead, obviously, because you were drowned. And if you were dead, oh, you were all right. You know, you weren't a witch. Then they just blessed you, you know. They just blessed you and said, well, sorry about that. Well, they never even said sorry. It was like a matter of, never mind, eh? And it was shocking. This is what was going through with him. And another thing that this fella never mentioned, he went over to Ireland, I think it was Drogheda, and he committed genocide there. He wanted to commit genocide, that man, against the Irish. Against it, 400,000 went. 400,000 people dead through him. And it was shocking the way it was, what this man and his expeditions did to the Irish, because he just wanted to get rid of Catholicism. That's all. The less Catholics we have, the better. This is what he was saying, if you know what I mean. And it was terrible. It was actually terrible what they were there doing, you know, these people. And anyway, that was hardly fucking mentioned. I'm sorry to swear, but that was hardly mentioned about this man on this document. I couldn't believe it.
Well, why is it they do this? Because they did it with, and I'm not comparing the two with those, there are similarities. We do it with Winston Churchill.
Oh.
He's proclaimed as
the greatest, yeah.
And we do it with him. And I was shocked that recently, Lainey and I walked into the Lady Lever art gallery.
Yeah.
And there's a bust of him in there, a stone carved head and shoulders.
Yes.
I thought, what the?
Yeah.
Is that you there?
No, he was a tyrant as well. And it was only through the war that he became this like most famous man. What never gets spoken about was Churchill said to Truman, let's go in and take Russia. Let our armies go straight through to the east and take out Russia while we have the chance. That's what did you know that?
No.
He wanted Truman like that. Oh, I'm not doing that. You know what I mean? That's how Russia is hated right through the centuries. Right through the centuries by both America and this country. And this is what's happening today with this stormy. Now, him and Macron, they want to send troops into Ukraine. What's Ukraine got to do with us? I just want to know that. I just want to know what Ukraine has got to do with us. You know, through years of trade and everything. What have they got to do with us? It's shocking what's happening. It's shocking with this stormy. He's putting us on the precipice of a nuclear attack. They've got a new bomb. It's devastating. It's devastating. And they've got a bigger bomb than that, which is more devastating. And he's put us on they could attack us because we're sending our rockets into Ukraine now. We're sending our rockets there. These shadows, bang, storm shadows. Oh, yeah, send them in. Because British people have to do it all. The Ukrainians can't. And this is what it's all about. It's absolutely ludicrous what this storm is doing. And it's parallel to this fella. And it's parallel to Winston Churchill. We make these war hawks great heroes. How are they great heroes? They cause death. Death. That's what they cause. Death. And this fella, what this documentary never mentions either, was that the people, as soon as they buried him, he was dug up by ordinary people. His body was desecrated. They cut his head off, spiked his head, and put it on Traitors' Gate. That's what they did to him. But that wasn't mentioned.
Yeah.
It's shocking. Absolutely shocking.
And then someone bought it.
Say that about. And when Prince Rupert came here and took this, they took this, and they slaughtered 360 citizens between May and June 1644. And then, but by the November, I'm talking about the Royalists taking over. And but by November, the parliamentarians retook it. And that's when they smashed up the Royal Seal, King John's Royal Seal. And that's where, they must have said to someone, listen, do us a favour, is there any, engravers here? Some fellow must have put his hands up and went, yeah, they are, I'm well. And he wasn't. He just wanted a few, Bob, because, what we see today, the liver bird, it's supposed to be an eagle, but it came out more like a cormorant.
Yeah.
And that's what it's all about. But anyway, this man, I've never liked him. I've never liked what he stood for. And you mentioned Churchill. Never liked what he stood for either. Because a year before our general strike here in Liverpool, 1911, they had one in Tolnapandy, the miners. The miners, it was shocking because they were all privately owned and they were on a pittance just like everybody else was on a pittance. And they went on strike and had a cabinet meeting. He was the first Sea Lord at the time, by the way.
Yeah.
The first Sea Lord. And anyway, this is Churchill, and the cabinet meeting, and they said, Tona Pandy's on strike, the miners. Why are they on strike? Well, you know, they can't even feed the families. And he said they're starving. They're actually starving. The hungry people. And Churchill, do you know what his comment? He was just the First Sea Lord, wasn't the Prime Minister. And his comment was, if they're hungry, fill the bellies with lead. In other words, shoot them. That's what he said. And a year later, he sent 2 frigates up the Mersey to train its guns on Liverpool. That's what kind of a fella he was. That's what kind of a man he was. And as I said, in 1945, he said, let's carry on to Truman and take out the Soviet Union. Let's take them out. Shocking, man. Well, that's me. But anyway, I'm going to finish on... Oh, yeah. So, as I said, what was never mentioned in this little documentary, that his body was dug up by ordinary people. Do you know what the first thing that they did? Do you know when he died? And they chased Richard, you know, his son. They went, no, you're not becoming a Lord Protector, piss off. And they got hold of Charles II, you know. Charles I's son, and said, you fancy becoming king? And he went, yeah, all right. So he came over, and the first thing that he did, not under Charles, but at his death and chasing of Richard, they opened pubs and the theatre. And he said to writers, if you want to write, write. And also, they wore colours. They got these, you know, people who make, you know, clothes and that, make, you know, colours. And that's what they did. They made colours, you know, outlandish colours as well. Because colour was lost. Colour, music was lost. Everything was lost through it. And yet you've got a society of, you know, Cromwell society. They love him. Blimey. But anyway, I want to go on about this. Remove it. I just wanted to say that, by the way, what Cromwell was all about. You mightn't agree. I'm not saying you know, the lads on there and the girls, you mightn't agree with that. But have a look at this. Just have a look at that.
Wow.
In this, right? Hang on, where am I?
Liverpool Docks.
Right. Look at that, Anthony. He designed all this. Yeah. He designed everything. Look at that. It was incredible. And the Albert Dock. Because, as I said, even like that, you know, he said, we need something for our ships to come in and unload. So he went, okay, and he done this plan with other docks as well. And he went, I'll build a warehouse so that goods coming off the ships can be in a safe place rather than the pilfering. Because owners of ships were saying, you know, it's incredible. It's absolutely incredible. The insurances that's going up. It's a waste of time going out and bringing goods in because we're actually making no money with the insurance. And this is what the great visionary was, Jesse Hartley, a great visionary. And that's what he built. Oh, look at that, David. I'd love him to come on. You know, great historian. He won't come on. David. Cromwell was the original Taliban. Sums it up. Sums everything up about Cromwell. Thank you, David. Thank you. He was. And we call the Taliban and everything for everything. God blimey. And you know, we had one here, living here. One of us, Huntingdon. God blimey. Anyway, Thanks, David, for that. Thank you so much. We should come on sometime. Let me know. Love you to come on. Great archivist as well, by the way, this man, David Owens. Anyway, so looking at that plan, it was incredible. And don't forget, that little clip that you've seen about the mechanical dock, he designed that. He designed that because ships, they used to sneak out and get off. They used to get off until, he said, I said this, he said, and, he kept them there until they paid. But certainly, they used to sneak off in the night as well. Not having this. So we built the Stanley dock and that mechanical dock, the bridge, the mechanical one. So what had happened was, it used to put, can you pay your dues? Can you pay your taxes for coming in here, this great place? No, well, yeah, this is where you're going. And they forced them in there and closed them. And it was known as the pawn house, the pawn shop dock. That's what it was known as.
Yeah. Until
they paid the dues. Then they could go on with whatever they were going to do in trade. But it's shocking what they did. It's shocking. I'm going to have a slurp of my tea.
What's wonderful is that when you walk around the Albert Dock and you walk around these areas of the dock, which thousands and thousands of people a week do that, you immediately feel that sense of history. You immediately feel connected to that. And the great, you and I have talked about it many, many times, where they've done it over the years, the logo for Liverpool and bam, bam, bam. It's shipping. It's the ships on the river.
Oh, yeah.
That is the magic. Yeah.
It has been for hundreds of years, the shipping. But unfortunately, when the likes of, dare I say, the South, South, they took everything away from us, the South, and said, sod the North, sod Liverpool, if you know what I mean.
Yeah.
And because I remember as a kid, a child, a little boy, going over to the New Brighton and Seacombe and places like that. But what I used to see on the Mersey was these massive liners. Seen them all. The Isle of Man boats. Seen them all. And I'm talking about the Empress of Canada and things like that, these massive things, these big boats, anyway, big liners. Point is, once, I'm not even saying about the tunnel, the tunnel, the Euro tunnel, I'm not talking about that, I'm talking about the trade between. They opens up everywhere. They left us behind. They said, you carry on, with your own thing. They wouldn't give us the time of the day, to be honest. They wouldn't give us time of the day, for trade and everything else. But yes, the likes of Seaford, that's the biggest container port in the country here. And it's the only port that holds all these containers. At least that's something. But they starved us. They starved Camel Ward as well from shipbuilding. And it was shocking what they did to us. Shocking. But that's governmental for you. They're the governments. We were starved of everything. So we had to build up again. We had to do everything. Do you know what one of our biggest things is now? Is tourism, believe it or not. Tourism.
Yeah.
For a great income. And it's just as well. That's why you get filmmakers from all over the world, by the way, from all over the world. You know, Hollywood. I don't like Hollywood, I'm being honest, but they come over and, you know, film certain places for film, because Liverpool, it can be Russia, it can be New York, it could be anywhere, it could be Victorian England, it could be Georgian England. We have fantastic locations all around Liverpool.
We do, and we heavily use words these days to describe some nondescript things, but the word iconic is a word I've heard many times applied to Liverpool. The city is iconic. You have musicians, global musicians, choosing to play Liverpool, and because the arena that we were supposed to be promised didn't happen, they can't fit the people in. So Anfield becomes the new arena, and they have the likes of Bruce Springsteen, who's massive globally, who his lifetime ambition was to play Liverpool because of the city and of course, to where the Beatles come from.
Yeah.
So he's playing Anfield Stadium, where the arena on the waterfront is not even half as big as it should be to cater for these people.
I've got my tickets for that, to be honest.
You got a ticket for Bruce?
Yeah.
Go.
Me and Francine.
Yeah, fantastic. That will be a once-in-a-lifetime gig, that.
Oh, yeah, because as you just said, spot on, you know, about Bruce Springsteen. But he's old now, you know, but at least, you know, you get to see a legend. He won't be the same as he was when, you know, 30 years ago, if you know what I mean. Dancing in the Dark and all that. But most probably sing Dancing in the Dark.
He's still... I love his lyrics, his poetry and his lyrics. He writes for the working people, and you know that's never changed in his demeanor or his work. I love it, and he's not afraid to pick a guitar up. And our comparison is, if you can do your own version of Working Class Hero, then that's good enough for us. And he does that. He does that in massive big stadiums, and he'll come down.
Anyway, he's here next year, so I made up with that. I'd say with Francine, she said, "Do you know who's coming here?" I said, "No, him." And she said, "Bruce Springsteen." I said, "Is he?" She said, "Shall we get 2 tickets?" And I went, "Yeah, all right." Cost me, like, you know, but it's the way it is. But she's made up as well, because she likes the boss. I just want to answer Edward, because I want to talk about this.
He's got Italian blood in him.
Yeah. And you know what? People thought that he was he was a Jew, and he's not. He's a Catholic, you know, because Springsteen sounds Jewish.
Yeah. Well, I think he's got Irish in him on one side of the family. I think his dad and Italian from his mum's side.
That's right. That's right.
That sounds like a perfectly rounded person.
Yeah. How long was Cromwell in charge for? Well, you might as well say from 1846. You know, the Civil War, 1846, 1858. And until his death in 1658. That's how long he was in charge for. And then by 1660, Charles II, you know, was enthroned. And that was it. You know, he was gone. But that's what kind of a man, as David Owens said, you know, Cromwell was the original Taliban. Think about that. Please think about that. He subjugated people to everything. And I mean everything. And this man here, too late about it. There's Jesse, look. Jesse the Hartley's jam. No, he's got nothing to do with Hartley's jam. But, you know, that's the Jesse Hartley. Great man. Great thing, as I said. You know.
As you said before, Frank, he's a great visionary.
Oh, he was a visionary. When you look at that map. Incredible. And, you know, when you look at the pump house, when you look at the, you know, it's a pub now, when you look at the dock itself, it's absolutely incredible. Look at that. Look at that. Isn't that unbelievable? Now, people just walk past these things. You know, there's two of them there. They just walk past them. You know, see, I think I've told you this before, haven't we? Do you know, we had the sale, you know, we were in the right place at the right time for sale, right? And we were screwed when, you know, the things came in, the other ships were out to sail. Why they were called liners was because when steam came in and the coal and everything else, they just went in a straight line because sail went everywhere. They were all over the place. They couldn't go in a straight line or anything. That's why the likes of the founding fathers, for example, when they set off in 1620 to the New World, 1619, 1620 to the New World, they were on the way to Virginia because that was already colonized. So they were on the way to Virginia and they were blown off course. They were blown off course and ended up in Massachusetts, Cobb Bay, the founding fathers. But more or less, they stole all, you know, the indigenous people's maize and crops and homes and everything else. Yeah. And then, you know, the following year, they had this big bounty. They never started it. It was the Indian. And they had this big bounty. Hence, they called it Thanksgiving in 1621. That's when it started, Thanksgiving. And it's coming up now, isn't it? You know, they're all, they just, I don't know. Is it the 21st? I don't know what date it is. To be honest, Thanksgiving, it doesn't bother me. But that's about it, you know, Thanksgiving. And it's all through the founding fathers. But little do Americans know that it was the indigenous American, the native, the indigenous native that set all this. And they stole it when they got there. The founding fathers who built up the Constitution and everything else.
Like Cromwell with the Irish.
Yeah. So, you know, it's a big lie. It's a big lie, Thanksgiving. It really is a big lie because there would never have been a Thanksgiving. It's like when there was a big chief called Powhatan. You know Pocahontas, right?
Yes.
Pocahontas. They make films, you know, they made an animation. And my little granddaughter, well, she was little then, she was made up with the, you know, this particular Pocahontas, marrying this wonderful man, John Smith. John Smith is one of my heroes. Never married her. But Hollywood made, oh yeah, you know, let's John Smith, because she marries a fellow by the name of Walton, John Walton. Now, Walton was a tobacco merchant, and he grew tobacco because once the tobacco yields went, you couldn't grow it again. So he went to this Chief Powhatan. He was the chief of all these people. And he said, "Can I marry your daughter?" And he went, "Sod off." But anyway, he finally relented and said, "Yeah," because He married her, he married that girl, not because of, love. It wasn't because of that. It was because he wanted land as a dowry so he could, grow more tobacco. That was one of the most productive things to come out of America at that time. And potatoes. And the potato famine is another thing, if you know what I mean. So anyway, he married her, not John Smith, in this little animation film. My little granddaughter was made up, but I couldn't tell her, we did, man, you just let her carry on. But you see how they change history. They change history, whether it's through animation, whether it's through war, whether it's through everything. I'll never forget Barack Obama. When he became president, he said, I couldn't believe what he said. And there was no need to say it. We won 2 wars. And I said at the time, he's a fucking war hawk. Sorry for swearing. I'm sorry for swearing. He's a war hawk, this fella. And he turns out to be a war hawk. Very hawkish against everybody. Barack Obama, along with Clinton, the rest of them. Bushes, the 2 Bushes, horrible people, and this fella Biden. The unfair law. Another great and interesting show. Your knowledge is amazing, Frank. Thank you, Red Bird. Thank you so much. It's just, do you know, I'm being honest. I'm going to be truthful. I'm on Friday, people, before I finish. On Friday, I'm giving conspiracy theories. Now, no matter what you think of conspiracy theories, I've got to read this fella. On Thanksgiving Day, they quote the poem, The Landing of the Pilgrim Fathers, Felicia Dorothy Hemans. Yeah, lives in Duke. And you know what? Felicity Hemans, I made up, you said that, David. Made up. She says she wrote one of the famous poems ever. And no one knows. And when you mention, you say, I've said it to, honestly, got thousands of people. I've said it, have you ever heard of Dorothy Hemans? No, is she? Yeah, is she? And I've got to say 2 lines of a poem, and everybody knows it. The boy stood on the burning deck. She's known in America. Dorothy Hemans. And the house is still there today. If I had the money, I'd buy it and do it up. I went to, I don't know how long ago, I forget it was even taught. Was it Ron Goulden, when he was mayor? Or Spriggsy? Forget who it was. I said, why don't you get Dorothy Hemans' house and do it up as a museum? She's fantastic. I said, she'd written books. I said, her brother was a colonel, I think he was a colonel, in Wellington's army, and he used to write to her, and she was, collecting all the information and she'd written books about the Napoleonic Wars, all through her brother. I said, it's just like Hardman's house.
Yeah.
I said, it's just like his house, Hardman's house. I said, well, you could do up another museum there. Nothing happens. And it's still, I don't know whether it's still empty or what. Dorothy Hemans. That's us for you. That's us. And thank you, David. I love him, Why don't you come on here? Come on with me and Anthony. Not now, like, you know, in the future. He won't, you know. I know that. He says, yeah. I will. But he's brilliant. He, you know, look at that, what he's just said. On Thanksgiving Day, they quote the poem, The Landing of the Pilgrim Fathers. Felicia, Dorothea, Hemans, who lived on Duke Street. What a man. Love him. Yeah. Thank you, David. Thank you so much. Thank you so much. But anyway, we've come to the end, Anthony.
Thank you.
From Arthur Dooley to Cromwell to the deep space. I just want to mention as well Gap Painting Services. I've got to mention Gap Painting Services, who sponsored the Frank Carlyle Show. Yes, Gap Painting Services. Listen, Christmas is a few weeks' time. If you really need something done, please get these in. If you're an elderly person and you need something done, don't struggle. Get these in. Special discounts you get off Gap. They come in, they just do everything. And if you're an NHS worker, please get them in, because again, special discount for you. Don't be struggling, because I know how hard you work, you people. I was only saying to Francine today, she took me out, I had to go somewhere shopping. And I said, she said something about the NHS. And I said, and America, I said, just imagine, we're talking about pharmaceuticals and the way the Americans own the pharmaceuticals. We're talking about fentanyl and how that came about. And I said, just imagine, I said, you're sitting there talking to me, driving along here. I said, if we'd be living in America, you'd be driving on your own now, because I'd be dead. Without our NHS. When I became ill that time.
Yeah.
And that's the way it is.
No.
America, nah, not for me. Not for me, America. They can keep America. But they're trying to, as this wonderful consultant, a lady consultant said, hey, they're not coming through the back door anymore. They're coming through the front door to privatise the NHS.
Yeah.
And on that, well, I'm just saying about Gap, please, get these people in. And even if you're not from that category of NHS or, an elderly person, don't struggle. Get these lads in. And you get it there, They're very reasonable. Honestly, they're very reasonable. Just get them in. Don't struggle. Don't hurt yourself. Gap Painting Services, who sponsor the Frank Carlyle Show. And Anthony, what do you think about tonight?
Frank, we've been on a journey. Like you say, we've been to the moon, we've been back. I love it. I love everything, because we never, and I know that our wonderful people who tune in with us know that you don't, and we don't do a script.
No, everything's off the cuff.
Yeah, we just start at a point. And they, as well as us, can divert it or send it somewhere else. It's magic. I love it. I love tonight.
Amazed up you liked it as well. Honestly, and Gerard Gilligan.
He was great, yeah. And a good point about the films. I'll check them out myself as well when we.
Oh, they're good, It'd be good if you can watch them he's coming back on in 2 weeks. If you can catch up with them,
Yeah.
And you'll know what we're talking about, honestly. They're well worth a look, knowing and 65.
Yeah.
Honestly, you've got to watch it right through. You've got to watch it right through from start to finish. Obviously, if you're streaming it, you can pause it while you make Laney a cup of tea or a cup of cocoa.
Yeah.
Cocoa. Or you could say, "Can you make me cocoa now? Or me Horlicks there, Laney?" All right. Anyway, give me love to Laney, will you?
I will do, boss.
Okay. And it's just to thank Gap Painting Services. Thank Jason, because without Jason,
we wouldn't be here.
Wouldn't be here at all. And tomorrow night I'm glad I forgot all about the football show tomorrow night, 8 o'clock as usual. So I've got that to talk about as well. I have the lads back on. And also, as I said, again on Thursday is the football show. There's a post-match on Wednesday after the Real Madrid game. And Friday is the conspiracy theories things, because every conspiracy, it's so easy to say, "Oh, that's a conspiracy theory," when you're telling the truth. So look out for that. On Saturday morning, as we all know, is the film and TV review. So we've got all that to go. I just want to thank all the chat. Thank you so much for joining us tonight, Anthony, yourself, and Gerard Gilligan. Thank you.
Thank you all.
He's gone back. Gerard Gilligan has gone back to his island.
Yep.
Did you get that? I thought it had gone over your head.
Yeah.
See you all tomorrow night. Thank you so much, people. Thank you. See you soon.
Good night, all. Thanks.
Adomani.